We're back. We don't know if this is going to be the first one back, but it's...
Was it me or you that did the... I think it was you.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it the...
Amy.
Benders? Oh, Amy was last.
Yeah, Benders was a little bit ago.
So, it's still technically summer, but for all intents and purposes, it's fall. And
it's fall in our hearts.
We needed to take a break, but we're back and refreshed. Better than ever.
With a sad story today.
Great. Excellent. The thing is, welcome to Relatively Weird, the podcast where a couple cousins get together and talk about everything weird. I'm Kim.
I'm Jilli.
And we're going to get into whatever this is.
Yes, I know. I was like, yeah, you do the intro. You do it better than I do anyway. We're going to talk about the torso found in the Thames River.
Fun.
I was still a young child when this happened in 2001, but it happened on September 21st. So I feel like, actually I know for sure, it was sort of buried with our news of
yes.
September 11th.
I thought you meant the torso was buried. But you mean the story.
Yes.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, but I talked to my mom about this, and she was like, oh, no, I remember, but I was 11 at the time, so...
And we had a lot happening in the nation.
So on September 21st, 2001, Aidan Minter, who was a IT consultant, was crossing the South Bank in London over the Thames River. Okay, I think it's Thames. Not the Thames, the Thames. Listen, I could have said Thames, okay?
You could have, which would have been just horrific.
He spotted what he first thought was a dummy in a red cloth that was kind of draped around it. This strange object was discovered to be the mutilated torso of a young boy.
Ugh.
His head, arms, and legs were missing, but on his body he wore like reddish orange shorts, very bright. They were unable to otherwise identify this boy, so they took to calling him Adam. Detectives Willow Riley and Nick Chalmers, yes, were working off a theory that this murder was the result of a voodoo ritual. More specifically, muti, which is a Zulu word meaning medicine. Have you heard of muti?
I haven't.
Okay.
I don't mean to jump in. Something else must have led them to that. They didn't just go like torso, it's voodoo, right?
Yes. So I'll get into what muti is. Muti is a belief that parts of plants, animals, and even humans have healing powers for certain ailments, or kindoki, which translates to bad luck or ill. More specifically, organs like brains, hearts, and testicles. Priests known as sangomas carry out rituals, and each plant or animal part has like a different power. So if a man is impotent, the sangoma might use like the genitals of like a powerful animal, like an ox or something, to help cure him. Any human parts that are typically used are from mortuaries, although I still think that's like not great or okay to use.
No.
But mostly in certain parts of Africa, actually all of them, they're like, that's not what we use.
Yeah.
So this is very similar to the other case of the Nganga.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought of. Yeah.
In the darker aspects of this practice, the taking of the body parts is done when the animal or the human is still alive, which is also kind of what we had discussed before. The screams give, they think, power to the practice, basically. So the more horrific it is, the more... Now, I am a white woman, American white woman, talking about voodoo and different, religious beliefs.
Yes.
Which is actually kind of an aspect of this case, because while they're not American, they were still sort of Westerners.
Yeah.
Trying to navigate through this kind of, delicate situation. So they sought out the help of Richard Hoskins. He's a senior lecturer in African religions at the University of Bath Spa, in the west of England. So Richard spent many years in Kinshasa. I worked so hard to pronounce everything. The capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo in the 80s. Okay. So he went with his wife and they worked as medics alongside a Baptist missionary program. Meaning to say he's lived among people who practice this. They showed Dr. Hoskins the crime scene photos. They told him the boy's limbs had been cut with precision, so they weren't just crudely removed.
Yeah.
The death was what they think from blood loss to the throat. So Adam had been drained of his blood while likely being either held horizontally or upside down. And his limbs were removed after death.
Okay.
They concluded Adam was between the ages of 5 and 10, and that his body had been in the water for around 10 days before it was discovered. Traces of cough medicine were found in his stomach, and the shorts that he wore were thought to be placed on him after death, and they think that was because they had lack of bodily fluids on them.
Oh, right. Okay.
His genitals and organs were still present, and Adam was circumcised, so this will be significant to Adam's background.
Okay.
Muti often uses organs, which his were still there. His circumcision was another clue, because certain African traditions differ depending on where the male grows up.
Right.
Uganda had been altering their traditions, having learned that diseases like HIV and the spread of it are less so when a boy is circumcised, or a man is circumcised.
Yeah.
Other circumcisions in different parts of Africa, like East Africa, they do it more so around puberty.
Okay.
So the Xhosa, Zulu, and Maasai tribes will use circumcision as an initiation into manhood. Adam's circumcision was well healed, so it was concluded that he was circumcised as a baby.
Okay.
The shorts on him were from Kids & Co., which is manufactured in China, and only 800 pairs were sold through Woolworths, which is a German and Austrian company, which I'm like...
I thought we
did too.
Woolworths here. I mean, not anymore, but I thought we did.
Maybe in 2001? I don't know.
Maybe.
They were marketed as girl shorts, and it was thought that Adam could have lived or spent time in some of these countries, so either Germany or Austria.
Okay, so we're saying in 2001 there were no Woolworths.
I guess
in
not.
England.
It was so weird because I was like, that seems very familiar
Yeah.
to me, but I don't know. I guess I imagine they concluded that this pair was sold only through Kids & Co.
Okay.
in Germany or Austria. If not Muti, Richard Hoskins believed it was closer to a human sacrifice type murder. So again, he still had organs. That's the crux of Muti.
Right.
Human sacrifice is officially outlawed, but some places in the regions of certain parts of West Africa still practice it on the down, or had at the time still practiced on the down low. The Yoruba of Nigeria believe that there are deities called orishas, and each require offerings if they are called on to aid their followers. So it's very similar to what we talked about in a previous topic. If you want their help, you have to give them something.
Right. It's not free.
Yeah. Each deity is believed to have their own favorite color, plant, animal, drink, feast day, all that stuff. It makes me think of some Greek back in the day, they all had their own little
a lot of pagan religions.
Yep. Yoruban males are also circumcised after birth, so there's sort of narrowing down where this torso is from. The difference between Muti and sacrifice is that, like I said, Muti is about harvesting parts, and it's done. They don't have to do it with precision; they just need the part.
Right.
Sacrifice is about blood and like draining life force.
Right.
In sacrifice, the victim is also forced to drink a potion like a few days prior to their death. This is mixed by a healer called a babalawas.
Oh.
Similar to South African sangomas and Central African ngangas.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be really specific. I felt like it obviously was important because we don't live there.
Yes.
And I also felt on a more scientific, maybe less emotional, from a less emotional standpoint, it's also just interesting, like science-wise.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, too, it's easy to, like when you say the word voodoo at first,
Yeah.
I think it's really easy for people who don't know to paint everything with one brush.
Yeah.
And so to know, I had no idea that there were so many different types of religion
Right.
that sort of fall under that kind of similar. I don't want to say it falls under that category, but it's very similar.
Yeah.
So, no, I think this is very interesting.
We'll link it, but it's from a book called The Boy in the River, which I'm letting my mom borrow, but I can let you borrow it too.
Okay.
So Richard concluded that Adam was probably from this part of Africa, the western part of Africa. Like I said, it was near the, American terrorist attacks. So they were trying to get it back. Like, okay, but this, was also important. They enlisted the help of Nelson Mandela. He was asked to appeal to the public, being like, if anyone knows anything. And of course, he's one of your people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
It's different when it's like a Western, police force or whatever. It means more when he's beloved. Anyways.
Yes.
And no solid leads were established, unfortunately. This is interesting. Police also turned to geological mapping. So this is based off the theory that everything we consume leaves an isotopic marker in our bones.
Wow.
These markers can indicate where a person lives. So when they do this, they'll test levels of strontium, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and neodymium. Yes.
Oh. I've never heard of that.
that.
Yeah. That really important thing that exists.
And these levels often take years to change. So Adam... Oh,
Okay. No, that sort of answers a question that I had, because I was like, they're really focusing on where he's from originally, which I could see being helpful because we would sort of say, okay, in London at the time, where was the highest population of people from Western Africa?
Yeah.
But that part of it made me think, like, what did you think he lived there?
I know.
Yesterday?
Right.
But if it takes years, that makes a lot more sense. Sorry.
Yes.
So that was...
No, it was
Thank you.
It was very interesting to read.
Yeah.
Adam's strontium levels indicated that Adam was not raised in England, the Caribbean, or Europe. And his carbon levels showed that he was in England no longer than 6 months.
Wow.
I don't know, like, the ins and outs of all of that,
Yeah.
but that's amazing.
I feel like I've never heard of that.
I've never have either. It was very, very interesting. Furthermore, I put that in my notes. Furthermore, the pollen spores found in Adam's lower intestines suggested that Adam was only in England between 3 days to a few weeks before his death. So even the pollen
Wow.
that's like where you are is like in your bones.
Think about that, though. Like, no wonder.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was in his lower intestines. But even, the stuff you eat, it leaves a trace.
It does.
It's very odd. So this is a little sadder. They discovered bits of bone, clay, and flecks of gold in Adam's stomach. The clay was from a river in West Africa. The mixture had been boiled in a pot. So I'm reading this back. I'm like, that's just so crazy how scientific things can get, or how the advancements that they've made.
Right.
It was thought that the solution would have been extremely bitter. So they think that the cough syrup that was found in his stomach kind of made it easier for him to drink it.
Yeah.
Additionally, Calabar bean traces were found in Adam's intestines. This bean is traditionally used to distinguish the innocent from the guilty. So the victim would ingest a concoction with this bean. If they vomited, they were found guilty. If they died, they were found innocent.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like...
Yeah.
Yes.
If you drown, you're a witch.
Right.
If you drown, you're not a witch, but you're dead.
Yeah. Half a bean would kill an adult, and whoever administered the concoction pretty much could choose who was guilty and who was innocent.
Oh my goodness.
Smaller doses would just paralyze a person.
That's all.
Well, yeah. How are you feeling?
I am already like, a group was involved in this.
You're so smart.
Could not been. So that's so upsetting.
Yeah.
To think that people, I get it. I get that there's a religious aspect to it that I will never understand, but this is just so upsetting that there's more than one person that knew what was happening to this little boy. But
yeah.
Anyway, sorry. That's where I'm at right now.
In October 2002, a new lead sprung up in the form of Joyce Osagide, I believe.
Okay.
Joyce was a Nigerian woman who was currently attempting... This is a weird... I had to keep rereading this because it wasn't super clear. I'll just say Joyce had like mental problems.
Okay.
So she also had her own personal stuff to deal with aside from being connected to this case. She was trying to get her two daughters, Jacqueline, age 6, and Precious, age 4, back from social services after having lost them due to what he said in the book was a peace disturbance. Didn't really go into what that means or what exactly happened.
What we would call a domestic, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like neglect related.
Yeah.
Joyce told the court she needed the girls back for a ritual that they were to take part in, which kind of illustrates how mentally ill.
Yeah, thank God that's what she said. Yeah.
Yeah. So police obviously interviewed her. She maintained that she was from Sierra Leone, although sometimes Nigerian immigrants would say that they were from Sierra Leone because they had a better chance at being accepted into England. Or I guess probably parts of Europe, I would imagine. She said that she was the wife of Tony Onus, a member of the Black Coat Eyes of the Devil Guru Maharaj cult.
Wowie.
Yeah. When I typed that, I was like, I don't think I have to say that too many times, but it was a cult. Joyce said that this cult had performed human sacrifices and that her husband had been a part of at least 10 human sacrifice rituals. She said that her son had been sacrificed by her husband, and so she and the girls fled to England to avoid the same fate for them. Except now she's asking to get the kids back for some other ritual.
Yeah, we don't know what.
The police raided her apartment, finding clothing with German care instructions on the tags. The clothing was from Kids & Co. Joyce confirmed that she had lived in Germany before coming to England, and she was arrested in connection to the Adam case. So during her interrogation, Joyce, she was like, I'm from Sierra Leone. I moved to Nigeria. She got married. Her husband's name would have been, or I'm assuming her last name would have been her husband's name on her passport. So it's been a while since I've done these notes, and I was like, I'm all ready to go. It's Onoji Higovi.
Okay.
And that's what I'm sticking with. Okay. But when they asked her to write it, she wrote Tony Onus. After this, she denied having ever lived in Germany or mentioning her husband's last name. Her DNA did not match Adam's, and the police found 2 former addresses of Joyce's that they wanted to check out in England. So the first address, they found forged travel documents and Nigerian and British passports. And one of them was of the name Joyce Erhiaber.
Okay.
Yeah. They found a wedding video labeled The Wedding of Joyce Erhiaber and Samuel, her husband.
And these are former houses of hers.
Yes, so this is one of the first ones. So I don't think anyone lived in the first one. It was dated...
left it behind?
I guess.
Weird.
It was dated February 1997.
Okay.
In this video, she and her husband celebrate their wedding with a ghost. A ghost? Nope. Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
I wouldn't put it past Joyce to have a ghost at her wedding.
Joyce and her husband celebrate their wedding with a goat sacrifice on an altar. Not a ghost sacrifice.
No, that doesn't... I don't think that would
That
get
wouldn't
as
work.
much. They'd be like, he's already dead. You get nothing for this.
They discovered that Samuel was a wanted man in Germany for forged immigration documents and for trafficking illegal immigrants. So German social services informed police that Joyce arrived in Germany in 1992 under the alias Bintu Kadade, which it says a year after her partner Abraham Kadade, aka Sam. So basically they are changing their names when they move.
Wow.
Joyce's two children were known in Germany as Esther and Esiogen,
Okay.
and were born in Germany in 1997 and 1999. Her first son, the one she said her husband killed, was reported dead at birth in 1995,
Oh.
which matched the year that Joyce told the police Sam sacrificed their son. So, again, she's a little...
Yeah.
The daughters had attended a nursery school in Hamburg in September 2001 under a local woman named Frau Durbin.
Excellent.
So she ended up fostering them and remembered that the older girl had worn like bright red shorts from time to time. So without enough evidence to convict Joyce, unfortunately, immigration had to deport her back to Nigeria. So they were like, you either have to like convict her or she's got to go because she's breaking the law. And they're like, yeah, but we're not done.
Right.
But she couldn't stay. So the police raided her second address. It was vacated but not vacant.
Okay.
So the current occupant had fled. His name was Kingsley Ojo. I want to say Oho because that's how but it's not. They tracked Kingsley down at his current home, but they found that he fled there too. Joyce had lived in her second address. Kingsley also lived there at one point.
Okay. Yes.
It did have things in it. Kingsley moved. They tracked Kingsley down. They came in. The stove was still warm. The window in the back bedroom had been left open. So basically he like ran out.
Yeah.
Someone had tipped him off. They found packets of a strange sandy mixture and a video cassette labeled Rituals, which don't label them.
Love.
Jeepers.
Oh, God.
In one video, it shows a man being beheaded
My God.
to a Yoruban deity. So they had said they weren't sure if this was real or staged. They couldn't quite be sure. Police finally caught up to and arrested Kingsley, but Kingsley denied knowing anything about Adam and said he was renting that home that they had raided to a different person. And it's like, well, then who's the person? Like,
Not my tape, man. I was holding it for somebody.
Yeah. It was discovered that Adam, Joyce, Sam, and Kingsley were all from Benin City. Benin City is a suburb of Yorubaland. Police let Kingsley go as they didn't want him to be deported too, because he was also there illegally.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we'll just... They surveilled him instead.
Okay.
He would go on about his usual habits, and they kind of were like, okay, if he's like into this sort of ritual stuff, which they sort of assumed he was, maybe he felt like he was like, I was saved because they didn't arrest me.
Right.
The contents of the sandy packets matched the contents in Adam's stomach.
Jeez.
So if you remember Samuel, Joyce's now ex-husband, they caught up with him in Dublin, and he'd been living there since 2001. He had a new wife. So he and his wife were arrested by the Irish Garda. Sam denied knowing Kingsley or Joyce and said he had no idea about what happened to Adam. He didn't even know about it. However, he did have an address book with Kingsley's information in it, so...
And also, did they show him the wedding tape?
Right.
Because, hello.
Where'd you get my tape? London police began making arrests of a network of people, so you are correct. They were involved in trafficking people from mainland Africa to places in Europe and the UK. There were 2 Nigerian girls who were rescued in a police raid, and they told the police how they had been initiated into a cult in Benin City. They were clothed in, like, bright red clothing, similar to the shorts, and they were forced to drink a potion. They said they were bound to the cult by spells. So basically these people are using and abusing religion to, basically be like, you have to or you'll be cursed, Some people went, like, they thought they were going to get a better life, and obviously they did not. Others, younger people, usually were kidnapped. Jeez. They found Joyce in Nigeria again, so they were able to detain her and question her more. She said she was in the Guru Maharaj cult from 1994 to 2002, but she left because of evil practices.
Finally.
Yeah. There were members of the cult in Germany and London, and she said that Sam was the messiah of their cult. She said a boy was killed in Lewisham by his parents, and she said they had been brainwashed by the cult. Now, Joyce, it's hard to really follow, like, it would make sense, but you kind of have to take her story
with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Kingsley was identified as the ringleader of a people trafficking operation. He was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison, which after he would be deported to Nigeria.
Okay. I was a little upset for a second.
Well, people had been recruited from Benin City, like I said, are just plain kidnapped. I basically already went over this. You can cut this out, but they got to their destination. They were enslaved as domestic servants or prostitutes, basically.
Oh my God.
Kingsley was released early in hopes that he would work with police to uncover more trafficking rings, but he fled back to Nigeria and they never found him again.
What the hell?
Yeah. Joyce and her brother Victor were tracked down by a journalist in 2012, where she corroborated the police's theories about the prep and eventual sacrifices, as well as the basically throwing the body in the river. It was all really significant because there might be a deity that was like of the river.
Right, right.
She said his name was Ikpumwosa, and that he was trafficked from Germany to London. And then she switched his name to Patrick Harbour. And she said she gave him to Boa, a.k.a. Kingsley. He had taken him to London and she never saw him again. Joyce continued to be unreliable, and her brother confirmed in 2021 that she passed away. So, the more people that are in connection with... I don't really know what her mental status was.
Right.
I sort of feel...
Doesn't sound like she was getting diagnosed anywhere.
No. And the last thing is that Adam's body was buried in a quiet ceremony with just police in Southwark Cemetery, and no one's been formally charged with his murder. But that's where it ends.
What the fuck? I'm so upset.
I sort of feel like there were probably way more victims just like him.
Yeah.
They were just found in different circumstances or were never found.
Right.
But it really kind of sucks because, like, Kingsley, he didn't even serve out his 4.5-year sentence, and then he went back to Nigeria, and no one knows where he is now.
Jesus.
So that's the, yeah.
I'm so angry at, because you're like, okay, it would be one thing if you were just moving people illegally. Mm-hmm. You are moving these people so you can kill them?
I think I think these types of sacrifices were to ensure the success of the ring. So it wasn't just that they wanted to sacrifice, but he was
okay.
I mean, we don't know for sure, but they think like he was one of them that was trafficked in. He could have either been in prostitution, he could have been in service. And if Joyce is to be believed, if his parents were a part of the cult, which I don't know.
Right.
I mean, they may have just been victims just like everyone else. That they were like, all right, we need to ensure that we're blessed and hidden from police and, you know.
And I suppose you're not going to start kidnapping people locally because that's going to blow the whole thing up.
Right, you may as well. I don't want to be nonchalant, but it's like, I imagine they would have used the people there. It's already illegal anyway, you know.
Well, so. And who even knew he was there? It's not like there's any record of him.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was struck by the lengths that the police went to try to identify him.
So, I think what I kind of left out was people who were from that area were very highly offended about, you know, they're basically like, your people come into our country and they do this and this is why we can't, you know. And even some of the YouTube videos and the research that I did with the comment sections were like, this is what happens when you, and it's like, okay.
Oh,
well,
God. Okay.
So I mean, I don't know how often stuff like this happens. And, you know, like, and that's pretty, I don't know. I think in America, we have a lot more violence, you know?
Yeah. I also think that I think we think of cults as just these big, obvious entities, and they're not always.
Yeah.
Some of them are much more discreet.
Yeah. Well, and I think they also knew this probably led to a bigger, like you had said, a bigger group of people so that they can at least save other people. And there's, you know, they don't, this spanned a few different countries.
Yeah. So. Well, and all you have to tell people is if you say anything, they're going to send you back.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's easy to convince people. I mean, that's terribly sad.
I had this topic written down for a while and I was like, I don't really know, because basically it was like, we don't know what happened. And I'm like, how much information can I possibly... There's a lot, though.
Yeah. Poor Adam.
I know. And I mean, I don't know how much Joyce was into, like, the violent part of it, or if she was at all. We don't know. Just seems like a really sad situation.
I know, that's true. Because when she said ritual, your mind automatically goes to something violent.
Yeah.
But I guess that's not necessarily true.
But I thought this was interesting, too, because they had said... I mean, people were so focused on, like, 9/11 in America, even non-Americans, so this kind of was not in the forefront.
No.
So, yeah.
Yikes. Well.
I was going to tell you I have a lighter topic, but I don't.
Going
forward.
I don't either.
I don't. I'm so
We're going to
sorry.
have to, we got to lighten it up a little bit with some, like, fun, spooky stuff
I do have some. I guess I just have to make those more of a priority, but I had never heard this. You know, I know, I was wondering if you had, because, you know, you're more into the true crime stuff, but yeah, sorry to bum everybody out.
No, it's just, it's interesting.
I will say, as far as like the forensic stuff, I was like, I didn't know you could do that.
No.
That's insane. And to, you know, with an anthropological background, it is cool to see that they can use that to help sort of solidify where someone is. And obviously they did find people who were breaking the law. I mean, they found a whole ring. Yeah. So, you know, that's the good that came out of it, at least. But
well, and, you know, you wonder too, they knew that there were people coming in. I think there was just nothing else to get them on, probably.
Yeah.
So chances are, But you're also like, in 2001. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just feel like nobody but like you said, I think our crime,
we're so
police
much bigger
stations
too.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. Finding just massive amounts of missing people, and
And he was so young.
He was so young, but you also hear about just like the scientific testing that's waiting to be done on evidence in the U.S. It's crazy, the backlog we have. And so...
Yeah, and as, like, science gets better,
Yeah.
And
the money it takes.
Well, that's... Yeah. Right, the resources.
Yeah.
If it's a cold case, which, this wasn't at the time, but... I mean, I don't know.
And there's nobody saying, my son's missing. There's nobody advocating for him.
Right.
So they just did it is really... It's not something we hear very often, if I'm being honest. So, well, that was very interesting. And I'm glad he got at
Peace
least...
in the
well,
end.
yeah. I wish they found him entirely.
I know.
That's a bummer. But at least people were there that seemed to care.
Well, I had read this book... written by Richard Hoskins, The Boy in the River. And, I just told you, like, the technical stuff, but it does go into his own experiences with people in this area and his own work and all that stuff. And he, as a non-police person, he was like, it really bothered him.
Yeah.
That he couldn't... It still bothers him. Like, he never really got closure as far as, like, the literal person or people who did this to him, or even who who Adam really is.
Well, and especially because you think pretty confidently it's there. The people you had them, probably, and they're just not giving you the information, which is just so infuriating. Yeah. But all right, really great start to our fall session.
No, I'll keep that in mind though. I do have a few topics that are a little bit lighter, so we'll have to mix it up.
Oh, yeah, we definitely will. I'm looking forward to maybe some silly, spooky stuff.
But happy, well, no, I won't say it in this one, but well, okay. I don't know how to end this. It's like nothing you say is good, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a very sad story.
It is. Well, it was very interesting. And you told it well.
Okay.
So let's go eat pizza.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Relatively Weird. If you like what you hear, make sure to leave us a review and follow us on your podcast player of choice. You can also find us at Relatively Weird the Pod on Instagram. If you have any stories you'd like us to talk about, send us an email at relatively weirdthepod@gmail.com. See you next week.